Hey everyone, welcome back to Inside the Cage, where we bring you the latest and exciting updates of UFC. First, hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. Colby Covington's UFC future in jeopardy. Recently, Belal Muhammad had an interview on MMA fighting, and at that moment he gave his suggestions regarding the UFC champion who is none other than Colby Covington. And the question was, what he thinks will happen to Colby Covington if he loses at UFC 296? So, here's what Belal had to say. 100% he's not a guy that's going to fight contenders. You've seen it. The UFC's given him older guys on their way out in every single one of his fights just so he can get a win. Then given him a title fight. Like, there are no more older guys in the division for him to fight if he loses to Leon. There are no more older guys in the division on their way out. When it comes to predicting the winner of the showdown between Leon Edwards and Colby Covington at UFC 296, Belal Muhammad, also known as Remember the Name, had this to say. I think Colby's going to come out throwing his wild, random strikes, literally his terrible technique. I think Leon's going to move around and throw some good high kicks, body kicks, and low kicks. Colby's going to take a couple of terrible shots, and he's going to realize he can't take Leon down. Well, it looks like Belal's placing his bet on Leon Edwards for the win, predicting it'll happen in the 4th round. Do you people agree with Belal Muhammad that Leon Edwards will come out on top and that Colby Covington might consider retirement? Jon Jones responds to UFC and USADA split. Jon Jones had some thoughts on the news about the UFC and USADA parting ways. Back in 2015, the United States Anti-Doping Agency, USADA, teamed up with the UFC to manage their anti-doping program. In response to this development, USADA CEO Travis Tygart shared a statement. And here's what he had to say. Despite a positive and productive meeting about a contract renewal in May 2023, the UFC did an about-face and informed USADA on Monday, October 9th, that it was going in a different direction. We are disappointed for UFC athletes who are independent contractors who rely on our independent gold standard global program to protect their rights to a clean, safe, and fair octagon. The UFC's move imperils the immense progress made within the sport under USADA's leadership. Later on, Jon Jones took his Twitter account and posted on it. Man, I survived USADA. First, they said I was guilty of having picograms, then they considered me innocent, and next, picograms became legal. Guess what? I'm still here, still unbeaten. That BS no contest over DC needs to be taken off my record. I've never cheated this sport, and I will stand by that until the day I die. However, Jon Jones isn't too pleased with the news about the UFC and USADA going their separate ways. He's pushing to have his professional record updated and wants a no contest against Daniel Cormier removed from his record. As for who the UFC will work with for drug testing from now on, it's a bit up in the air. It seems like this breakup might be linked to Conor McGregor. Now, how do you feel about what Jon Jones had to say regarding the UFC and USADA parting ways? It'll be interesting to see if the UFC takes his comments into account or not. MMA community goes off over USADA situation. Here, the UFC is making a big change by ditching the USADA and setting up its drug testing program. And it seems like this decision is tied up in a dispute that involves none other than former champion Conor McGregor. The UFC has taken things up a notch by sending a legal letter to USADA demanding that they retract a statement they made on Wednesday about ending their partnership with the UFC. They also want an apology. Quite interesting, right? In a statement to the Associated Press, USADA CEO Travis Tygart said, "We stand by our statement and our credibility." Meanwhile, USADA dropped the bombshell on Wednesday, declaring they're cutting ties with the UFC after an 8-year partnership. The whole thing revolved around a disagreement concerning McGregor. In return, the UFC didn't waste any time in responding. They held a news conference on Thursday and stated that they told USADA they were ending the partnership just the day before, on Monday. Things sure escalated quickly in this showdown. On the other hand, McGregor caused a stir on social media this week when he announced that he's making a comeback to the USADA testing pool, which is a necessary step before returning to the octagon. But the UFC officials stepped in to clarify things and pointed out that McGregor wasn't scheduled to fight in December, and he'll need to follow the testing program to meet those requirements before he can get back in the octagon. In that concern, the Vice President of Athlete Health and Performance at UFC stated, "McGregor fulfilled every obligation under the rules that's been asked of him and gets rewarded with that garbage statement that came out early this week. It's unfair." All in all, it's been a real roller coaster ride in the UFC lately. Guys, if you're enjoying the video, we'd love your support. Just hit that subscribe button to motivate us to bring you more exciting content. The legal demands of UFC. It seems like the UFC's relationship with USADA might be heading for a courtroom showdown. This all comes after a jaw-dropping statement from Tigard on Wednesday, where he dropped the bomb that December 2023 will be the last month of USADA's partnership with the UFC. Now, UFC's chief business officer, Hunter Campbell, didn't mince words when he threatened legal action against USADA. He wasn't happy with recent statements coming from USADA's CEO, Travis Tigard. Campbell accused the anti-doping program of defaming the UFC and insisted on a formal apology. In the same press conference, Campbell and UFC executive Jeff unveiled some big changes. Additionally, they're planning to team up with Drug-Free Sport in early 2024 to continue their drug testing and anti-doping efforts. However, Tigard spilled the beans, saying the UFC did a complete 180 on their ties with USADA during a phone call on Monday. Tigard suggested that McGregor's situation might have played a role in this twist, and mentioned, "They for sure didn't like the statements we made." On the other side, Campbell had some strong words in response. He called Tigard's accusations a self-preservation tactic and didn't seem too convinced that it would work in the long run. According to him, the UFC's deal is a significant chunk of USADA's revenue, and he hinted that Tigard's reaction to the partnership ending might be because he knows he'll have some explaining to do to the higher-ups. As for McGregor's testing status, it's been a hot-button issue for the past year. Back in July, UFC's big boss, Dana White, made a somewhat controversial statement saying, "Who cares what USADA says?" But later, he had to backtrack and clarify those comments, especially after the media had a field day with it. Campbell seems to think that Tigard's accusations about the UFC and McGregor are just part of the drug testing organization's attempt to shape a certain narrative. "It's going to be a complicated relationship for the next few months," Campbell said. Even though it's ending on a messy note, Campbell and Nowitzki took a moment to appreciate the work that USADA put in during their partnership. It's worth noting that the partnership is set to last until the end of 2023, despite all the drama that unfolded on Thursday. Surely things are getting more than a bit heated in the world of MMA. Islam Makhachev's coach makes a huge prediction. Javier Mendez has a gut feeling that Alexander Volkanovski might come into his rematch with Islam Makhachev with a bit less caution. These two had quite the showdown at UFC 284 back in February. Makhachev managed to secure a unanimous decision victory, but it wasn't a walk in the park. Volkanovski put up a strong fight, and he spent a good chunk of the time on top. Now, Mendez believes that this experience might make Volkanovski more aggressive in the next bout.
He's going to do more. He's going to take chances. He's going to take more chances than last time. He's not going to be worried about the takedowns because, he's obviously survived the ground last time. And he also did his best work on the ground, not in the stand-up. So he's not going to be afraid of anything. And that's the one thing I feel he's going to do is he's going to come. And he's going to come throwing to,
So, when the rematch between Makhachev and Oliveira was announced, Mendez wasn't exactly jumping with excitement. Certainly, he's saying that because Makhachev pretty much dominated Oliveira in their previous bout at UFC 280, it didn't exactly get him all fired up for a second go-round.
For me, yes, 100%. And for the fans, I think so too. I think for the UFC, I think they had a great main event. Now they got a way better main event. They got in my opinion, the all-time greatest rivalry in the champion versus champion UFC history.
Undoubtedly, Mendez has always had his eyes on that rematch with Volkanovski. He's hoping that by taking on Volkanovski again, Makhachev can put to rest any doubts and silence those who believe he lost the first fight. It's all about showcasing his skills and demonstrating he's got what it takes to be a top fighter in the game. All right, guys, that's all for today. Don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel. See you at the next one. Until then, goodbye.